Let's have a look at our first example. It's from the games Mislo and Panov, and I think it's a great example of positional intuition. If we look at the board, the position looks approximately equal. The black last move was rook g8. Maybe black is planning g5, h5, and breakthrough on the king's side. White has a weak pawn c3 and bishop on c2. Black has weak bishop on e7 and pawn on d6. However, these positions offer several dynamics possibility, and Smysl, with his fine intuition, finds his chances. If you would be with white, which moves would you bear in mind? Smysl plays c4. White sacrifices a pawn in order to get his rooks into play and get the controls of C and B lines for his both rooks. Black has nothing better than just taking on c4. If we would trying to make pressure on c file, comes strong c5. And the idea is that black cannot really take on c5 because bishop on e5 is hanging, and then the black diagonal will be very weak. So black accepts the pawn sacrifice and takes on c4. White takes on c4, and now black is staying on the crossroad. Which piece to take? Should he take with the queen? Should he take with the bishop? Black decided to take with the bishop, and taking with the queen would be probably the little bit worse options, because white can sacrifice now and exchange and get very interesting and very strong counterplay on the black squares. Taking on d6, and now taking on d6, queen takes d6. So white has a pair of bishop, but is threatening bishop d4 and the pin on rook and on the king. Black can take the bishop on c2 because it was hanging, but white can take on e6, and now what is coming? Coming is bishop d4, pawn f4 is also weak, and also pawn on a6 is hanging. White queen is defending the pawn on a2. After checks, white just plays king h2, and there are no more checks in the positions, and we can say that white has a full compensation for the exchange sacrifice. So black didn't want to go for this line, and he took on c4. He grabbed the pawn with the bishop on c4. The rook is now hanging, so very logical move is rook c3, and he for the pawn, c3 pawn, he got very strong actually square for his first rook. Now there is a pin between bishop and queen, so black is trying to exchange the queen, what would be the ideal scenario, but however, that doesn't come into question for white. Rook b7, so white cannot take on c4 because of the queen on b2, but white is just threatening the pressure on the c file. And later we will see in the game how he successfully managed to penetrate to the c7 square. Bishop f7, the idea is that white still cannot take the bishop of f7 because of the queen on b2. And now queen c2. So what to do now? Shall he take on b3 or just to defend the bishop of f7? What should black do? Black is pawn up, but the position is not so easy. White has a easier plan. Probably better was taking on b3, just to a little bit simplify the position and keeping the queen on the queen side. That was very important in this position, what actually didn't happen in the game. In the game, black put the queen on the king side, and white got a complete counterplay on the queen side. And if we look at this position, white is pawn down, but his bishop of f2 is much more active than the bishop on e7, and the rook b1 is very active. threatening rook b6. He will take the pawn a6 most likely, and the pawn a will be just free pass pawn, and it's difficult to see what black can do. Probably just defend, try to exchange ideally some piece. So white is definitely not worse in this end position, but it was still better than what happened in the game when black decided to put the queen on the other side of the board. So after rook c2, so black should have played probably exchanging the bishop on b3, but black played queen e8. And after exchanging, white actually successfully managed accomplishing his plan, and it was penetrating on the c file. Moreover, one of his strongest pieces will stay on the 7th rank, and white managed to exchange the most active pieces of black. So what to do now? Black should basically activate also his rook, but where to put the rook? On f8 or on e8? Black decided to go for rook f8, what is little bit more passive to defending the queen, but maybe it was better to put her on e8, because in that case black queen wouldn't be playing a defending role, wouldn't be degraded to defend bishop on e7, and black would now be threatening to take the pawn on a6, a2, and would get more active play. He instead went for rook f8, and black is now activating also his rook by rook c6. What he wants to do, he wants to take the pawn on a6 and just advance his a pawn. And as we will see, black will try to find some counterplay on the king side, but as white has no weaknesses, it will be very difficult for him. Queen e6, taking on a6, and black played move like g5. I really don't like this move, although the idea is, okay, he wants to play h5 and g4. He just wants to try something. He's searching for a counterplay on the king side, but the thing is that white has no weaknesses, and white can activate his queen also very fast. So maybe the better plan was to play king g7, and as we all know, in the endgames, king also plays a very important role. And after rook a7, king f6. Taking on e7 with the idea bishop h4 is probably not the best for white, because even after winning the pawn, white's problem is king on g1. It's simply too passive. Black will play king h4, at some moment also king g3, and putting rook on c8, b8, and will be always threatening the mate. And just with the rook, without king, it will be very difficult to win this endgame. So black would have very good chances to save this position. But after king f6, white can, of course, has also a better move, just taking on e7. He is not forced to go for all the queens, to go to rook's endgame. But black in this position decided to go for g5, defending bishop on e7, and white now played a very strong move. It's kind of defending move, but it's also a very active move, because what he wants to do is to keep the square g4 under the control. So black has no chances to break through. Of course, exchanging on d7 is not a good idea, because a4 a pawn will just advance till a8, and so black decided to go to f6. And okay, white has no worries. G4 square is fully under the control, so he just advanced with his a pawn. And okay, black set a, so he must say probably also b, because he has no other plan. So he went for g4, what is also risky because his king is also not, will be a little bit shaky as well. d5 is trying to find some tactical possibilities in the positions, but actually due to weak black king on h8 and quite a secure king on g1, the tactical possibilities are working fine for white. And how would you decide the game with white? With which move? You can take a bit of time to think. There are also more possibilities. White he could have taken on d5, the position is still winning, but he went for bishop h4. Taking on h4 would mean exchange down for black, and that it's also lost position with the a pawn. So taking on h4 is not working. So bishop c5 is king h2, and he cannot take the rook on a7 because the queen of f6 is hanging. After queen g7 comes just taking on f7, and now double check to king and also the bishop to c5. So this position is also lost. So after bishop h4, black played bishop c6, and white just took the piece. And now white found a very nice way to finish the game. With few checks, with a king, and which move win this? Which the last move wins the position? Yes, it's simplify as much as possible, because black king is not in the square to catch the a pawn, and black resign because comes a6, a7, and a8.